Hey, welcome back to another episode of the POW Factor, the podcast where we share narratives and tactics from inspiring women who are making ripple effects in their respective communities. I'm Jory Mundy, your host, and today we have a special guest for you. Her name is Ninjia Miles. She is the Director of Development with the IU Foundation. I cannot wait to get into this conversation as we delve into the intricacies of her career journey as a fundraising expert. So let's welcome Ninjia to the POW Factor. Ninjia, I am so excited that you are here. I can't wait to get into this conversation and just really explore all of the insight that you have had throughout the course of your journey to climb the ladder and be successful and have a successful path and journey that you've had. So let's get right into it. My first question is actually, I always like to start with this question because it's related to the podcast, which is about the power of women. And, I know you probably know this. I'm a girl's girl, so I love everything that about women, definitely a feminist. And I see the power in women and how they just continue to thrive, impact different communities, the evolution of this world. So with that being said, when is a time or a moment in your experience where you have felt the power of you?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's probably an unconventional answer. So I felt it during an exit interview, actually, which is a very interesting time to have it. Just for context, I was at an organization that loved the mission, but it wasn't a good fit, and culturally just wasn't the most supportive or positive. And so I decided that this wasn't a place that I probably should stay at for a long period of time. It's best that I kind of move forward into another space. And so in the exit interview, they ask you questions, and it's very easy to be just kind of like done with it all, or feel like it doesn't really matter what you say and just be like, it was fine, it's just a better opportunity. But I really decided to take that opportunity to share feedback and what my experience was like, because I know that I wasn't the only person at that point in time who was currently working there who had that experience. No, and also there were people who had worked there before who had similar experiences. So it was like a systemic thing that was happening. And so I was like, you know what, if I don't know if anyone else has had it, said these things, but like, let me take the opportunity to say it. Even if I feel like it may not go anywhere, hopefully it does, but it also felt really good for myself to just kind of get those things out. Because up until that point, I had been sharing where I may have had some difficulties, or where there was kind of some tense moments, but not very like confidently, or just kind of like, oh, this is happening, and not really saying like what was happening. So I took that opportunity to say it, and from there, I was like, okay, like continue to do this. Like, don't wait until you're leaving to like feel like you should say these things. And when you say these things, say it all, put it all out there, and that you do have a voice and that it will be received. And just from beyond myself, I don't benefit from it necessarily not being at the organization, but hopefully someone else who steps into this role or a similar role somewhere else may not experience what I've experienced because I spoke up at that.
I love that. What I heard you say was so many different things, but I really heard you talk about the power of your voice and how giving that amplification to your voice, to whether or not you felt like there would be an impact from you sharing your experience, that was the time where you felt your most powerful. And I feel like that is something, just as women, we may get into situations or encounter a situation where we feel like we don't want to speak up, or we feel just like, using our voice, we don't know what the impact might have, but really still sitting in that experience and knowing that your voice is needed and can have a ripple effect, and really also can, I would say, protrude your soul, because the moment that we don't speak up is sometimes where we feel like we have self-sabotaged ourselves in a sense. So I love that you talked about that. I also heard you talk about, or you share basically your courage and bravery to be able to do that, because sometimes, of course, we know just in society and outside of leadership or workplace or anything, sometimes speaking up comes with a cost, right? And so it could put you in a situation, that just is, that could cause an impact in some type of area in your life, whether it is something that, of course, we don't want to be purposeful, but of course, there's some risk. So one, I applaud you because that is huge, and I feel like for our listeners, it is so key to just hear that in that moment, especially that experience, whatever experience that's happening, that we use those experiences to amplify our voice and do so, in a way that is, of course, we can always see things and what happened, the good that we can take from the experience, and also the areas, where maybe there's some area of improvement. So I appreciate you sharing that. And it leads me, actually, I want to go to another question regarding just adversity, and in just the grand scheme of your career and how you've had a successful career, because I know we have partnered in several different capacities, and I'm so gracious. I'll save that for another pod to just talk about how we've been able to partner together through various mentorship programs and so many different things. But has there been a time in your career where you felt, you were facing an adversity, and how did that adversity shape you to thrive more successfully in your career?
Yeah, so for me, it was the role that I decided that I needed to gracefully step away from. But within that time, I learned so much about myself as a leader, as a community member, as a fundraiser. It was definitely an opportunity for me to just really do a lot of internal work. It was the first time that I was in really like a leadership role that was the leader. I ran the office. It was my shop, and I was excited about the opportunity to learn. I knew that I going in that I didn't know everything. My hiring manager, she also knew that, and we were both willing to learn and work together to figure this out. For me, one of the biggest things that I learned was kind of what I need to be able to thrive in a role. And so for me, I learned a lot about just kind of support. It was probably one of the roles where I felt the least supported, and I had the most responsibility that I had ever probably had at that point. And how to advocate for that. I don't think I did the best job. I will say there were times where I think I got in my head in a way where like you probably shouldn't be asking for these things at this point. Which is one, not true. It's okay to ask for those things, because we both walked into that situation knowing that I didn't know it all. So I'm not sure why all of a sudden I felt like I needed to. But just being able to like advocate and support, but also when I wasn't able to maybe get the support within the organization, how I could leverage external relationships and partnerships to get that support. And so either through natural community partners that we already had, as I built those relationships, they had bought into me and were willing to support however they could. And so being able to leverage that in thought sharing and, bouncing things off people, or, I'm really trying to get in front of this person here, but I'm having a hard time. Do you know them, or do you know someone? And so really learning how to like leverage the resources that I had. I had to be as the scrappiest I probably had ever been, which is saying a lot, because I had been in some other places too where the entrepreneurial spirit was highly encouraged. But then I also learned in that role, when kind of what it looked like when I maybe didn't have the opportunity to do the best that I could do. and kind of how that may have manifested or how that showed up in my work. And so trying to figure out how to course correct or create the spaces or the safeguards so that I wasn't necessarily in that, in that spot long, and can continue to put my best foot forward as I did the work.
I love that. So I heard several things, and the first thing I want to jump into is you talked about just understanding the capacity and your needs as you started to springboard into your leadership position, and really seeing like, hey, this is the support I need. And you made a statement about feeling like feeling whether or not you should ask for what you need, or feeling maybe some judgment there on maybe I could, just take this on. I feel like that's so important because I think that's an area for women where, we can get into roles and have that I would say superior complex, where we're thinking like, hey, we've got to be able to handle and do everything and do so. But the support is really what puts women in a position of true success. And I love that you said, that when you first maybe didn't feel that support that you needed, then you sought that out. So I want to jump into, you said that also you had built some relationships, and what strategies might you share with, someone that may be similar to you, who is in a role and they're digging their heels in, and they're starting to realize the capacity of what they have to manage. And if they feel like they don't have the support that they need, and they're just kind of deciding on whether or not, hey, should I ask for this, or what can they do to try to build that support network so that they can be successful?
Yeah. So that's a great question, and I like to say that first. I would say that I am not. I probably wouldn't be someone that gets put into the seasoned category just yet. I think I'm not so new that it's like, oh, a little baby professional, but I'm probably just getting to the point where I'm like mid career. So that's kind of the place where I am, getting into that mid career space. I think in the experience that I've had thus far, as I connect with people, even if I'm just meeting them, because of the business that I'm doing, or just like, networking, many of them are invested in you as a young professional, and are willing to support you. And they probably will say things in those conversations that let you know that they're willing. If you have any questions or you need an introduction, let me know. I think the biggest thing for me that I learned, I think by that point in time I had learned, that's where I learned it and definitely like embodied that, was listen to them. Like, no one, if they don't want to be there for you or are not willing to be that resource for you, they're not going to offer that up. And so anyone is willing to, they say that is because they see something and they want to support and take them up on that, even if you don't have like an immediate ask right then and there, but they're like, I would love to connect over coffee, in the next month or so. You don't have to have an ask necessarily, so as to why you want to meet with them, but definitely take that, take that up, because that's the opportunity for them to get to know you, one-on-one. It's not in the middle of an event or, handling business, where they learn more about your story, and you can share more about what your, personal and professional goals are. And then they can share how they may be able to plug in and support and be helpful. And so when I had met with these people, they were like, I understand the work that you're doing, and I'm willing to bring you in front of people, or like, I have this list of all the people who are in this space, like all their emails. Let me know if you need it. And I could have been like, no, I'm just gonna spend the time Googling and searching. But I was like, hey, can you send me that list? Like, and they did. And so it's been, as someone, a young professional, taking the opportunity to meet with those people who are seasoned, who see the potential in you, and take it seriously. It's easy to just be like, oh, they don't want to talk to me, like they want to talk.
That's another thing I was just, and not to jump in, but I just feel like that's another thing to draw out, because sometimes we can be in those conversations, and I know I have been in conversations with sponsors, people, those are what I call, sponsors, those who can kind of make decisions, hiring decisions, put you in positions to meet good people, all of those things. And they offer up themselves, they offer up their reputation, they offer up their investment in you. And sometimes we can back away from that and think, well, do they really mean I should reach out? Or maybe some time has gone by after you've met them. And so you're feeling some
Mhm.
reluctancy. Well, it's been about a couple months and I don't know. And what I'm hearing you say is reach out. And I would totally agree with you, because, that's a part of their legacy as well. And that's a part of,
Right,
of
exactly.
them feeling like they are giving back from all of the things that they have learned. And throughout the course of my time too, it's recognizing that they have a love to give back and wanting to help, and also to share, the nuggets of knowledge that they have, insights, the trials and tribulations, adversities that they've gone through, all of those things. And the door is open because they've opened it. So it's like being able to just recognize, hey, that door is open, so now it's on me to walk through the door. And so I
Mhm.
love that you shared that. And you also, I want to step back because you said a whole lot. I'm loving this.
Yes,
um
sorry.
is that you talked
What?
about, when we were talking about adversity, you talked about learning yourself, and that
Mhm.
understanding and that experience, that there were so many things that you took from it, whether it was areas that you thrived in, or areas where you could focus more and ameliorate or enhance for yourself. And I also wanted to just take the time to pull that out to say, it's really sometimes those tough situations that really make you sit
Mhm.
with yourself to say, okay, what's happening here? And, what are the things that I can pull from this? What are the great things that, I know are working for me, and the things that maybe, I need to focus on, or just what I heard you say. I mean, and in my words, a pulse check to say, is this resonating with me? Is it time to move on? Is it supporting me the way that I need it to be supported? Am I thriving in the way that I could? And also being open and willing to move forward, if that's not the case. So I'm just kind of reiterating, you said so much, and I wanted to pull that out. So my next question is talking about positive impact and communities. So
Mhm.
what advice would you give to individuals or to women who are looking to make a positive impact in their communities? And that be maybe especially mentorship.
So, for a woman who is looking to make a positive impact, I would say one, know that it can look many different ways. First, the acknowledgement of maybe what it is that you personally care about, as an individual or as a professional, and how what you may have in terms of skills and abilities can contribute to that. So first, it can look like community engagement, so being engaged on boards or just volunteering, whatever makes sense for the time and capacity that you have. But also that it could also look like mentorship. And so pouring into, someone, a young professional at your organization, or at a group that you belong to, or pouring into someone who is new to the field, regardless of age, and is trying to get their footing. And so just thinking about, what that it can look many different ways. It may ebb and flow. And, no matter what the contribution is, it's to something positive, and it will be impactful for those who are on the other side of
Yeah.
it.
And you made a statement about joining boards, and I feel like that's something too that I wanted to pull out of there, is that really can put you in a position of being able to really build your reputation, engage with like-minded people. It can challenge you and push you in different ways because of the responsibilities that you'll have to undertake. And so I love that you said that, in addition to making an impact in the community through that endeavor. So I love that you said
Mhm.
that. And it's a good springboard too for where I want to go, which is just when we're thinking about the evolution of women and their career advancement and success, and I know you talked a little bit about your adversity before and just encountering that experience, what would you in your mind say is the biggest challenge that aspiring women who are, or aspiring leaders who are women, are maybe facing in their careers?
Yeah, I would say probably the element of feeling like you have the voice. That was a big thing for me. I feel like um, one, I why not feel I know that you do have voice and your voice has power and has influence, and to use it, it's easy to get into some of these spaces where it's either male dominated, or maybe you're a woman of color and it's dominated by people who are part of the majority, and feeling like you tend to kind of fixate on every action that you do and kind of start to think about, like, well, if I do this, what does this mean, or how will it be received, and is this what is this going to mean for the promotion that's coming up, or if they need somebody for things like that. I think what I've learned is that people do appreciate, even though it doesn't feel like that, people do appreciate, though, you speaking up, and it says a lot about you, as the person who speaks up. And so it is not being received necessarily in the way that it may feel like it's going to be. And so take that time and just use your voice to also like advocate for yourself. It's very easy to be, in a position, in a role that is maybe not serving you in the way that you want, or maybe you're the only person who knows what it is that you're hoping to get out of a goal or a project, or just this particular job that you're a part of at that point in your career. And so as you're you've agreed to work there, you're working there, it's okay to take time to be like, hey, well, I'm really hoping to learn more or do more in this space. This is where I'm really trying to like sharpen and grow as a professional, and sharing that. Don't just kind of let other people determine what this role is going to look like for you, or kind of create for you what they feel like your career trajectory or journey is going to be, because 9 times out of 10 it's not exactly, because only again you know, and even if you communicate that to them, they're going to forget, they just forget, because it's not like it's not their life or their career. And so use your voice to continuously advocate for yourself in your
Yeah,
roles. And so that's something that I've learned, and I definitely
I
do now.
love that, which is, using your voice regardless of what happens. And you also mentioned about when you get in a role and you're trying to carve out your path in a role. I think that is so something that I wanted to also pull out, is because sometimes we feel like when we start in a role, you just get in and then you just kind of keep the role going. But I think it is so important, especially for aspiring women or aspiring professional women who want to become leaders and who are elevating, to the highest success aspiration, is to find a way to make that role your own and to really build something that is going to be a part of a legacy that's invaluable. And so, when you step in that role, how is it going to change because you were there? What can you create that is, going to live on, and it's now better because you came into that role? And I love that you talked about using your voice in that, because I feel like the way to get to that is to say, hey, here are the things that I'm seeing. Here's where I would love to evolve. Here's what I would like to build. And really being a leader and jumping in and doing that. Sometimes it's taking that initiative and asking for forgiveness later, and and
Yes,
giving
yes.
people what they don't even sometimes know that they need. And I feel like that
Right.
you've really honed in on that. And so my as we're talking about that, I know we haven't talked about it at all, really. And I want to get into work life balance, and what that looks like for you, and how you manage a successful career, and also your personal commitments and family, and how you continue to, one, make time for yourself, and also ensure to, in embrace self-care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's definitely still a work in progress, but I think that I'm getting closer to a sustainable solution, I will
Mm-hmm.
say. For me, so I'm very outside of the work that I do, full time, 40 plus hours a week. I also have kind of a consulting business. I'm a part of a lot of different boards and some professional organizations, and volunteer in between, also being an aunt and a dog mom. All of the things. And so, as I've realized that I said a yes to a lot of different things, and now I'm looking at my calendar and I'm like, okay, ma'am, what did you do? So first and foremost is now being able to feel like I can say no, say no to some things, and not right now. I would love to, but I just can't. But let me know how I might be able to help in another way. If it's something that's maybe more short term, or happy to make a connection, if I can do that, but can't sit on the board and like go through a project with you. So just being able to like say no and feel okay with that, and not feel like I've like failed the community, which has been really hard. Which is why I was saying yes to everything, because I was like putting more on myself than I probably really needed to. But then also, making sure that I also prioritize carving out time for the things that like recharge me. So as the weather gets better, I really enjoy like going on hikes. And so making sure that, in my calendar, the recurring meetings pop up every month before you even get to it, right? That's already there. That's good. But making sure that I also take the time to just naturally carve out, like, this is, I'm looking at my calendar, this week is wild. Let me make sure that the next week I just carve out some time that I know is going to be like care time. I might not know what that is at that moment, but this is going to be like an evening where I will not let anything get on this calendar. Like, just, yeah. Well, putting just as quick as I am to put a meeting on the calendar, also putting time for myself. Um, so that's been like a really big thing. And then also, I've really got into like Orange Theory, and now I'm to the point where I'm pretty hooked. And so knowing that that's like a constant, if I have a wild day, um, I know that like once I get on that treadmill, it's not even gonna matter. It's fine. I will be okay. And getting those like endorphins in, especially when sometimes work and just all the things can kind of stress you out and bring you down. And so just definitely prioritizing the care moments just as much, and try not to get to the point where like now I need to take multiple days off because I'm just so overwhelmed. But how can I kind of maintain throughout all of it, because I am so involved. Like, that's not going to change. I haven't termed out of anything yet, so I'm still very involved. So figuring out, just weaving it in a more intentional way.
And I heard you say several things that I'll just reflect back, which is say no and to not be guilty about it. Set some boundaries that are uncompromising. So when there is something that comes up, and maybe it may be on the night that you said, I'm not going to invite any other things into my life, sticking with that, focusing on things that recharge you. I love that. So, and for you, that may be Orange Theory. And so really focusing on that, and being okay with continuing to plan forward, and using some pre-planning to really assess what you need so that you can build out the time that you need, so that you're giving yourself the nourishment that you need in order to move forward, and also not waiting until you burn out, essentially, to say, hey, I've got to take off a few days to recoup and prevent that cycle. Yeah, those are things that I feel like it is because we are life is lifing, and it will continue to life. And as powerhouse women and women with big career aspirations, a heart to serve, and so many different things, where it's like, you want to be in the community, you want to be there for your family, you want to be committed to the things that you're committed to, and where do I fall in the grand scheme of things? And so I love that you talked about making sure that you are setting a boundary and a no, and not compromising it, and having your safe haven. And that for you, maybe that's the treadmill, but for our listeners, it could be going out on a hike, or it could be going outdoors, whatever is that thing that is going to give the fuel. So now I
Yeah.
want to pivot to my last question, which is just more of a question on what do you think, or what advice would you give to a woman, let's say someone who could be listening, and she wants to go to the heights of her success, and whatever that means for her. So maybe she wants a C-suite, or maybe she wants to just thrive in the workspace, at an executive level, whatever that looks like. What advice would you give her in terms of how to elevate?
Yeah, definitely. One, build out your network. Build out your network. So, you know, join professional organizations that are related to the work that you're doing, or just kind of one that's just more just general professionals in the area. It's just as important as it is to connect with people who may be in that area that you work in. It's also going to be very valuable to connect with people who aren't in those spaces at all, because they also have insight, they have connections, they have things that maybe you don't necessarily see how you might align with, that could be there. And so don't, of course, definitely don't kind of reduce yourself just to the role that you're in, or the position or sector that you're in at the moment. But also take the time to like invest in yourself. Don't ever stop investing in yourself, I would say. So, whatever opportunities there may be through your employer to learn, professional, personal development, even if it's not relevant to what you're doing right now, how could this possibly be a skill that I need to be building to get to once I am in the C-suite? So, I was taking like workshops on managing people, did not have a direct report, but just wanted to know what that looked like. Also just as a person who was a direct report, like, what should this look like? This is look right. This is going good. But, also, as I think about the places I want to be in, it's going to be good to have had the exposure to this area, before I maybe had the experience. Things like LinkedIn Learning, there's, all kinds of workshops and seminars that may be relatively affordable or free, or leverage resources through your companies to get to those. Definitely remember, don't forget like about yourself in this process. So that self-care and that balance, because it's easy to get to feel like you have to take all of the meetings and go to, like you said, all of the things in order to be seen and to be taken seriously. And if you're doing the work all the other times, you missing that one networking event is not going to take you out of consideration for things. There's people who are seeing the work that you're doing, and are willing to advocate for you, or even mention you when you're not there. So you not being there is not gonna kind of ruin your chances, so to say. But also seek that mentorship. Seek mentorship. From people who are similar to you but also different from you, and also outside of mentorship, identify people who could also be sponsors, like you said, the people who are willing to go to bat for you and speak for you and vouch for you when you're not in the space. And so the mentorship, sponsorship, investing in yourself, and building your network, I think will take you very far.
Nija, thank you so much. I just love how we really got in depth, and thank you for using the power of your voice, because I feel like that is such an integral component that we need as women as we continue to climb to the heights of success. And I feel like it is going to come up. There is going to be a time where you're going to be on one side, and there's going to be a voice that's in the back of your mind that's saying, I should say this. And it's having the courage and the bravery to do that. And I feel like your journey is a testament of that. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for just all of the insight that you shared with us. And we're so excited that we got to have you and sit down today.
Yes, thank you for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity. And I do want to give a point of clarification. I don't know if this is helpful. So I did mention the treadmill. I don't want any of my coaches to hear this and be like, why did she lie? The treadmill is not my favorite. It's just that I'm so exhausted and pushing myself that I don't have the capacity to think about anything else. So yeah, I'm not like running on the treadmill by any means. Yeah, I don't want them to be like, why did she say that? No, it's just that I'm suffering so much that
Well,
I can't think
I
about
feel
anything
like
else.
in a great thing to talk about, accountability, accountability, accountability.
Yes.
All right. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you.
I am so inspired from that conversation, and what I pulled from that, the glaring insight and nugget was really the power of your voice, and how sometimes we can feel reluctant to speak up and to say what we really feel and what we think, and how empowering and freeing that could be in our own evolution, in our own self-empowerment. So I am just in awe. So until next time, remember to embrace your POW factor and continue to strive for greatness in all that you do. And remember to subscribe, leave a review on the episode, share it with your friends and or your colleagues. I'm Jory Mundy, and remember to stay inspired, stay empowered, and keep leading with purpose.